Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy you're here. It is 1 o'clock in Colorado, and this we are calling an Ask Me Anything Lunch and Learn with me, Laura Barr. Welcome to the parent community. I'm so happy that you're here. Every year, I do this workshop, What to Expect Junior Year, navigating the most critical stage of college applications with confidence and clarity. I was reflecting as I was working on this yesterday on how I have been doing this for 10 years. And in this 10 years, college admissions has changed so drastically. And it continues to change drastically each year. And part of an Ask Me Anything that I always dread is how probably 80% of my answers are going to be, it depends. So be prepared as you ask questions. We have with us my moderator, Sarah Modica. She is our operations at Emerging. So she is going to moderate any questions. I'm going to keep an eye on the chat. I think I'm going to go approach this with having you please enter your name and your child's, you don't have to do child's name, but maybe name and ages if you want to share. And if you have any pressing questions right now, I know some have given their questions to Sarah ahead of time. While you do that, though, I'm just going to go ahead and get started because maybe I'll answer a bunch of your questions as we go. Everyone knows that junior year is, let's see, what is happening? This is not, there we go. Okay, so actually, Sarah, I cannot see the chat anymore when I start the PowerPoint, so I will need you to jump in with questions that come when it's appropriate. Okay, so when we think about junior year in our practice, we think about what we call middle expedition. And that's because I wrote a curriculum called the Capstone Curriculum, a field guide to the college application process that starts with early expedition and then ends at what we call late expedition. The idea of early expedition is those early days, freshman, sophomore year, where students are really getting grounded in what do I have to do to even set a course load that helps me, it gives me advantage when I go to college. How do I want to spend my minutes? What is my personality? What are my values? What are things that are important to me? And as we head into the middle expedition, we're inviting our students to take more ownership. And we're also inviting them to take more ownership in the context of junior year. I mean, everyone knows it's the big year, right? You're taking the most challenging courses. Their activities are up-leveled. They're taking leadership roles in their community. And granted, not all kids are doing this, but there is this heightened pressure just around saying junior year. They're balancing so much more. And on top of it, we're inviting them into, you know what? College is around the corner. And in our practice, we're always thinking of the backwards plan. We're backwards planning to pretty much November 10th, which it is today. Most of our seniors are application complete. We like to actually have our students done by September 15th if they can, for the hope and dream that they can actually enjoy their senior year without this extra load of the college applications. In our practice, we really, really believe in start early. It is just so important that juniors are not waiting until the summer before to do applications. And actually, in our practice, we're really thinking, what are we going to get done in the fall? We're going to take small, tiny steps. Students are going to take ownership, but they're also going to be working really collaboratively with our mentors. When I think about when parents ask me, what should the year look like? We kind of have it mapped out to what works and has worked over the past years at Emerging. But one of the things we really want to focus on is that continual cycling of who am I, their personality inventory, their values. How am I going to spend my minutes by getting that resume prepared and almost finalized? And when I say almost finalized, the reason I say finalized is because I want it visioned out. I want by junior year, the resume to look like it's going to look when it is submitted in the fall. Meaning we have pre-planned what the students are going to be doing with their minutes so that they can put that on their resume and then they can live in to what they decided to do. The other thing that we do, and this is, I always say this is best practice education pedagogy, is we have them writing their essays, specifically academic interest, why major, and why school. And we integrate that. What I mean by education best practice is that to do something, to invite a student to do something in isolation, like research colleges or write a why major, without combining those two, meaning we research for what we need to be able to do to write a well-written academic interest statement. So those being combined also have us working on writing skills. So we're combining that interdisciplinary approach so that they're learning how to research in context, and then they're also getting stuff done. And I don't usually say stuff, so you can imagine what I say instead. I mean, they have so much stuff to do. So in our practice by fall, mostly, if they have started with us at the beginning of junior year, they have a resume, which is the basis of the activities list. They have their first why us, their first why major, and they're beginning to work, if they're applying to California schools, beginning to work on some of the what we call PIQs, personal insight questions. I was working with a student and a mentor today, and the California school questions are really about insights. And I think one of the things that I've noticed over so many years is a lot of times students just don't know how to have insights. They've grown in education systems that ask them mostly to be compliant, to do output in very, clear rubrics, but they're not often asked, how do you feel about that? Why do you do that? Why do you want that? How could that make a difference? What if you wanted to draw, like, all of those kind of bigger questions are really hard for students. So there's a lot of processing. Another reason why starting early is so important, because the more time students have to process, the more genuine and the more clear their essay writing is, and also how they talk to their regional reps in interviews and all of those things. So if you're doing that early, there's not this like triage of trying to get things complete the summer before senior year. In winter of our junior year, we're continuing building on the foundation of building that college list, refining college research skills. We're working on demonstrated interest, which is reaching out to those regional reps. And then we're really starting to dive in on, once we have that college list, we're really starting to work on those supplements. Most students who are applying to college today, who will have 10 to 16 schools on their list, will have anywhere between 20 to 25 essays that they have to write. This is one of those things that is so different. I mean, raise your hand. I wrote one essay, I had one deadline, and I took one SAT. That was it. I mean, I'm getting older than most of you, but that is a fact. And these students are taking multiple tests. They're writing multiple essays, doing multiple drafts. And then summer is when we take the time to dive into the personal statement writing and finalizing the applications. The biggest milestones that we say, and I'm just going to kind of say what I said before, is that we're completing that personality inventory and cycling through consistently career major questions. Who am I? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? Who do I want to be in the world? We're mastering college research. And thank you, ChatGPT. I will tell you, that has been the most amazing thing for college consultants is ChatGPT. So we are extremely savvy at teaching our students how to use that, and we use it in our own practice so that students are informed with accurate information. And guess what? SAT and ACT are back. It's inevitable that this was going to happen, but this idea that colleges will not be looking for SAT or ACTs anymore is now by the wayside. Post-COVID, it caused a lot of chaos, mostly in extreme amounts of applications being submitted to schools in a way that admissions officers couldn't really manage. And so we are back to creating SAT, ACT plans. I personally like to avoid having those big tests junior year unless they're at the beginning or towards the end or towards the summer, because they already have so many other things on their plate. For some students, it's motivating to have more. It's motivating to have more activity going on in their life so that it helps them be more successful. And that's one approach. We're writing supplemental essays. We are working and completing that resume. All of our juniors, once they complete their resume, we invite them into creating a LinkedIn account and begin actively using their LinkedIn accounts by making connections with their parents' friends, beginning to look for internships and summer engagement. And then again, we are constantly working in the spring on building ideas around drafting that personal statement, getting ideas that, and let me just, I guess, no, I'll come back to that in a second. So let's talk about the college list. All of the things that I've been talking about require a college list. And that college list is sometimes hard to create with a 16 or 17-year-old who is a sophomore or an early junior when they don't know what they want to study or they don't know where they want to go. In our approach, we always kind of start with their state college or a college that they've always just kind of known they've wanted to apply to, so we can get practicing right away. And as we begin to know our students and our students begin to know themselves, we begin creating this, I always call it my spidey sense. I use my spidey sense to create that college list based off of academic interest, performance, preferences, Coursava card search, which is a way we create college criteria. And then by the end of junior year, when all the final grades have been posted, the SAT scores and ACT scores are coming out, we can kind of begin looking at that balance list. Are these schools unlikely, likely, target, or reach schools? That's the language that we use today. And I also added my own, which is not on any criteria, but is called lottery schools. And those are mostly Ivy Leagues or highly selective schools. Anything under 10% are what I call lottery schools, because it really, at that point, they're only looking at students who have, 5.0s, 1550 on their SAT, some kind of extraordinary resume, including research and internships. And if our students are in that category and they're applying to those schools, it's still a lottery because there's a lot of other students who are doing the same thing. So we talk a lot about that in creating a balanced list. Some of our students who are applying to IBs will have maybe 20 schools on their list because 8 of them are lottery schools. And then we're building out other possibilities, especially honors programs, state schools with honors programs. And that list continues to be iterative, sometimes until the very end. We have students right now who are gaining a sense of confidence. They did really well on their SAT, or they got a position on a board or a community service engagement project that they're really proud of. And they're like, you know what, maybe I will apply regular decision to this school that I thought would be a reach, but maybe now it's a target. And so that idea of iterative is something we really coach families on. Academic interest statement, I shared a lot about that. Academic interest statement is the famous why major. Many schools are looking for an understanding of what college or school students are going to be applying to. That always surprises students. I love it when I meet with freshmen or sophomores and they say to me, oh, I'm going to major in engineering and philosophy. And it's so charming because there aren't many colleges that you can actually have a double major in engineering and philosophy. I wish that there were, but they're not. And so we do a lot of coaching on like, what is college? Like what is college anyway? What a university has 5 different colleges. What colleges do they have? What offerings do they offer in each college? And then there's liberal arts schools and the colleges that change lives schools. So our goal is for students to know what they want to study when they get there, but that doesn't always necessarily mean they know their major. We definitely have ways to guide them if a school demands a major. We have ways to coach students on how to play the game, which is part of this. Another thing junior year that we really encourage parents and students to engage in is college visits. My favorite way to visit colleges, and people have heard me say this a million times, which is just stay in your own backyard. We are in Colorado, and in Colorado we have DU, which is about a 7 to 10,000 student campus. We have CU or CSU, which is post 20 to 30 to 40, depending on if you can count graduate students. And then we have Colorado College in Colorado Springs, which is 1,500. So students get a sense. When I have families early who start with us, and I'm happy and grateful that we have more and more students starting earlier. I really encourage this freshman year. Like, just go where the name is not important, that you just are getting a sense of college. And then there's this kind of like, when am I going to start visiting the colleges that are on my list? Well, obviously that depends when we get the colleges on the list. It also depends, does that school track demonstrated interest, and how important is it for you to visit that school in the context of selectivity? And then finances, right? Like, not everybody can just go pick up and go visit every single school, every single break. And then on top of that, students are busy. They're really busy. So, people always ask me, how important is it that students visit the campuses while the college students are on campus? And, I had 4 kids, and I had my own opinions about this and my own budget around this. But for the most part, I felt like, for me, what made the most sense is to wait until students got in, unless demonstrated interest was a really huge factor, or if they hadn't had enough college, I guess I would call it like college knowledge, so that they really just didn't even understand what the differences between colleges are. And we have many students who come to us that way as juniors, and sometimes even as seniors. They just don't even really understand what a college campus looks or feels like, or how they would engage. So we just work with each family on designing a college visit that works for the family. But it's an important factor. If students haven't done it yet, then we want to be having those conversations, because again, that drives, why major? Why us? Why this college? What programs? How can I engage in this school? Because what so many schools are looking for is how that student is going to contribute to that campus. I like to talk about essay writing and editing process in our practice in particular. And if you're not, working with emerging and you're working with other consultants, I think everyone pretty much has the same idea when you're thinking about how to do essay writing and editing for students. I mean, number one, students need to be doing the writing. It is so important that the grown-ups in the room are being grown-ups, and that they are not overly contributing to essay writing. Admissions teams know it. And obviously, let's bring in AI. They also know if students are using AI. It's unclear what's going to happen in the future with AI. I mean, a lot of schools are using it themselves to read applications. I think we're going to see a lot of changes in the next 3 to 5 years, 2 to 5 years, on how essays are written and how they happen. At our practice, because we use best practice education pedagogy, is we are really working with them to be writers. So we practice what we call ethical editing, meaning we coach them in workshop by giving them mentor texts of best practice writing for that particular essay. We coach them on outline. We also give them, I think I just said that, we give them mentor text to see, like, here's what essays look like of people who got into that school. And then we say, it's time for you to write. Go write. And we say often, and I'll just use this because it's a quote, Anne Lamott, her wonderful essay called Shitty First Drafts. We beg them to write shitty first drafts. We're like, please do not write a perfect English essay on why us, why major, what brings you joy, all of those questions. We're like, we want you to play in the sandbox of writing, like write it. And then we, what we call blue line, we blue line with comments, and students have the choice to take the feedback, to not take the feedback. And it does take them some time. And most of our students get 2 or 3 edits of their supplementals. And then the personal statement is just a little different, which I'll talk about in a second. So again, we're using workshop writing, which is a way to teach writing that many schools use as best practice. Students submit their essays, and then we have editors who read them, and then they revise. Good writing takes time. One fun fact for me is it is so hard for me to be the grown-up in the room, meaning there are so many times I just wish I could just write their essay, that 3 years ago, I actually decided to start writing my own personal statements and my own narratives. And I now am a published writer for writing my own narratives. I have my own Substack called In Brief, where it's anything under 650 words is my whole In Brief. So if you're tempted to write your own students' writing, which, hello, it is very tempting, become a writer. It's a great strategy. Okay, personal statement. What is the personal statement? I'm always surprised every year how people are confused by this. There are multiple essays, but there is only one personal statement. And the personal statement is a 650 words that is probably the most important piece of writing their students will ever do to this date. And that is a big ask. For us, we start brainstorming ideas and listening. Actually, I start listening right away when I start hearing kids' stories. All of us mentors are like, she loves hula hooping. That could be fun. Or, right, we're listening for what we call uncommon topics with uncommon connections that reflect the values and insights of the student. And so we're listening, we're brainstorming, we do personal brainstorming exercises, 21 things about me, I love, I know, essence objects. We are big fans of Ethan Sawyer, who is a mentor of mine and did all my training for me back in the day. And so we use a lot of those brainstorming exercises. Again, all of them asking students to answer questions that sometimes it's hard for them and it takes time. The personal statement is what reveals who that student is beyond grades and test scores. I think that's all I can. I think I don't have anything more to say on that, but it's one of my favorite things that we do with our students, because most of them at the end feel such a sense of pride, and they also feel a huge sense of relief, because this is weighing on them heavily for a long time. It's almost like this huge rites of passage, since our students don't have that one thing in common. If you're going to college, you write the personal statement. All right, I think that is all that I have for my spiel. Let me see if I can come back and turn this off. Okay. All right. Questions. I'm going to come down here. Let's see. When is the ideal time to begin the personal statement draft, and how long does the full process usually take? Well, that is great. The ideal time, well, I have to be honest about this. I have just changed my ideal time. And we often change our timelines based on years of experience. Ideally, I would like every junior, rising senior to be done by the end of June with their personal statement. I like them having some time in the summer because the summer allows them to have what I call flow, another best practice in education. We want our students not to be juggling 18 other things. But you know what I've been finding is that so many families aren't grasping what summer is like for these students. And so I can't even get my hands on them for a week or two in the summer because they're traveling or this or that. And I think these days we're really thinking about backwards planning even more, like doing all personal statement exercises in January, then moving to outlines. Then in June, they're already outlined. That's when they're doing they've already had one draft is my goal, and then they're going to revise in June instead of intro, writing, revise, and then they go to Europe for a month. So, or start their internship or get a job at the pizza place, and then they can't meet us anymore. So it's hard. I mean, I guess it's funny. I guess that would be my message. One of my messages to what to expect junior year is that the summer before is really, really intense for these kids. And if they don't get the job done in the summer, their senior year is becomes stressful. They're still having to perform their senior year. They still have AP classes and things they need to do and papers. And they're also starting to launch and having more independence in their life. And we want them to be able to do that so that they can launch. So it is quite a balancing act. Any other questions? I don't see any more in here. Okay, how do parents find a balance between helping their students grow in independence through this process while also staying involved and active? That's a great question. I mean, it's funny. I think one of the ways parents can help their children grow towards independence is allowing them to struggle through this a little bit and allow them to take the time to process and to struggle in it. I mean, it's tricky. As a mom of 4 kids, I wanted to be in it all the time. I mean, I'm a college consultant and my kids would not let me help them. And many of you have heard this story before. You know, my son Christopher wrote his college essay in front of Family Guy, and he wrote the whole essay about like all the things I said no to him for, but he did anyway. Literally, that's what his essay is about. It's published on my website. If you ever want to read it, it's pretty funny. But that was my approach, is like, this has to be their journey. At the same time, that'd be really hard to do without mentorship, which is what we offer. We offer the mentorship. So we take that burden and we struggle with them in a processed way that guarantees that they're going to have some kind of outcome because they have to, or they can't apply to college. So it's like the same thing as when they were little on the playground. You know, I still will walk by playgrounds. I mean, well, I guess you guys would all have to have context that my first job was kindergarten teacher. I was an early childhood specialist back in the day. And I love watching parents on a playground. I love to see how just the sociology of it, right? Like, are you the parent who's going to stand right by them as they're walking the balance beam and not let them fall? Are you the parent who, when they fall, are going to run as fast as you can and help them up? Are you, and you get to decide these things, right? I always say I'm a helicopter mother in recovery. So I have no judgment, but I learned how to catch myself on this is their process. I also get that the investment is really different than it was. When I went to college, I think it was $4,000 tuition at CU Boulder for room and board. I mean, it was crazy, right? So it's a lot easier to be less invested. So I get it's a struggle. I think using the mentors in your students' lives to talk through things like where to push and where to pull, I think that that's a strategy. Let's see. We're hoping that the process helps our student find their voice and who they are. And I hear you emphasizing that. But what about students who don't really know who they are? How do you help the process not be self-limiting to the horizons they have now? I love that question because I would say that's probably 50% of our students. I mean, um, knowing who you are is a lifetime of work. It's knowing how to think about who you are is what we're trying to get across. We can't guarantee students at the end of our process will know who they are, but they will know who they are in relation to their personality inventory, their interests and passions, their strengths, their challenges. And they'll know and have practice putting that out into the world of what feels good and what doesn't feel good. I mean, there is a long path for these students and ahead of them in knowing who they are. Um, and I think it's going to be more complicated for this set of kids than ever in some ways because the world is changing so much. Opportunities are changing. The kinds of opportunities are changing. I mean, my son wanted to go into finance and get into real estate, and he got a great job. And one of them continues in real estate. One worked in a bedroom in New York City for 2 years, making bank, and now is in Vietnam on a self-actualization trip. He's like, I'm not sitting in a room in New York City for another year. Like, and good for him, right? Like he gets to decide. And so I think a lot of the ways that we hope, I mean, I like the idea of this question of like, you don't want to limit them, but any university that they're going to go to is going to have options. And we often think about it that way, like for our students who are like engineering or so and so, or I want to be, I mean, a big one is, I want to be a nurse. I want to be a nurse. And they're 16 years old and they don't even really know what that means. And so a lot of the students we coach on nursing is, hey, why don't you go pre-med? And then if you want to go to nursing, instead of going straight in to nursing only. We had another student who was like she went straight into kinesiology at OSU. And after 2 months, she was like, I'm not doing this. Instead, I'm going to transfer to the marketing at, I'm going to apply for the business program there. So as someone who's building college lists, we're also like picking colleges for students where they have pathways, right? We want students to have pathways because we know 80% of students change their major, period. So that's my strategy for that. And then, oh boy, Kate, how do you help students navigate the reality of AI use by peers? Students with stress because of grades are real, peers with AI aided performance. My stepdaughter came home from college and she said every single person there wrote their essays with AI. I don't know what's going to happen with that. I don't even know what to say. I mean, there's times where I wonder maybe they should just be writing their essays with AI if they're good, and then they can speak to it. Maybe there's more speaking or dissertation or writing in the classroom. I don't know. I think it's chaos. Everybody knows it's chaos. I don't know.
Laura, there was one more question from Kate up above.
Oh, tell me.
Let's see. What is one great question to help a junior focus? At this point, is it more about potential academic area of study, setting city, region, close to home versus far, or something else?
Let me look at that area. At this point, let me read it. At this point, is it more about potential academic area of study, setting, close to home? Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I think part of what I really This is pushing my thinking because I mean, really, it's all of it. It all has to kind of blend, right, for them to be engaged. If I have students with certain set of skills and interests, the program of study is pretty important to me because there are some really neat programs. And when I say that, this will go back to the AI piece, is because the world is changing. A lot of these programs are becoming pretty interesting, interdisciplinary. As a matter of fact, just this morning, Boulder announced a engineering business collaboration, a business and engineering program that's going to be using AI. I'm like, thank you. Thank you. That is what is gonna colleges are going and right now are scrambling to create new majors, new possibilities, new interdisciplinary opportunities. And I really want my kids, and my kids meaning your kids, because they're my kids for now. I get to share them with you, or all of our mentors do. But we want them to take advantage of some of those, and I'd be more interested in them taking advantage of those and then changing than I would. But not everybody's like that. I mean, we have plenty of students who go into exploratory studies, and I'm happy with that too, right? I'm always, I mean, maybe I'm a little cynical, but this setting, city, region, I mean, I can't tell you how many students are like, well, I need to be near skiing. I need a college near skiing. Okay, well, that gives us like, there's not that many. You're like, Utah, up, Northern California. Just stay at CU for God's sakes if you really want to ski. But then they don't even understand that they're not going to be skiing. They're going to have homework and exams and tests, right? So the other one is beaches. Like I want to be near a beach, or I don't want it to be cold, where again, they don't really understand that they come home a week in November, they go back for 2 weeks for exams, and then they come back again for a month over Christmas. The more money you pay for college, the less they're there, I think. I don't know. I felt like that with my kids. I'm like, oh my God, you're here. You're still here. Like, go back to college. Um, so for me, and then, finances too. It's like if you can get the same thing in your own backyard, because graduate school is going to be a thing. It's like college is more like high school used to be. Let's see. Kate says, the teachers don't. Oh, yeah. Yep. I don't know what to say about that. You know what I'm going to say about that, Kate, is that our job is to raise our kids so that when they think about who they are in the world, they're doing the right thing when nobody's looking. I want the kids, I want us as a collaborative community to raise kids who will do the right thing when no one is looking. And if that means they don't get as good of a grade as Susie so-and-so who cheated, that's on her clock. That's her karma. But I don't want, and obviously this, but it's like that's seems like a great place to kind of finish what to expect junior year, right? Like in the end, our job as parents is to raise citizens, and we need them more than ever. I wake up every day and say that, and so does my team. So when we work with our students, that is what is in our hearts and minds. And you may need a village to stick to that, because I can't imagine how hard it must be on those days where you're faced with that. So, all right, unless there's anything else, I am going to sign off. Thank you so much for coming. And let's do this. Let's do this junior year. All right, bye.